All right. I think we're recording. Welcome to Fandumbs episode. Is this three or four? Three. Episode 3.
Well, if we call it 4, then we could go back and do a lost episode. So,
We should do the lost episodes of Fandumbs. Good evening and welcome to Fandumbs episode 3. Tonight, drum roll. Good drum roll. We discuss
not a drummer.
The Batman. I'm Steve, and with me, as always, is my childhood liaison. Is that can you be a liaison? I don't know.
No.
Is that the right word?
We'll go with it till somebody tells us otherwise.
Okay, Kirk. Good evening, Kirk.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good. Tonight's episode is not brought by McDonald's, but I am drinking it. And so, McDonald's, if you do want to sponsor us, please let us know.
I would also go with Coca-Cola.
I have a Dr. Pepper. So Coca-Cola and McDonald's, the unofficial sponsors who have given us no money to do Fandumbs. Well, it is Batman night. Kirk, do you have a toy? I saw earlier you had something, and so I felt compelled to steal from my son. So what is your Batman toy?
Well, I have Bat Duck.
Ah, the Duck Knight.
Yes. He is the Duckness.
Good. Does he squeak or?
No, he doesn't really squeak.
Okay. But he is the Duckwing. I grabbed, my son has many of these, but I grabbed my favorite one, the Lego
Nice.
Batman. I can't remember which year this was because they've redone it. So
right.
This was probably, well, we were in Texas, so this is well over 7 years old, I think.
I was going to say, that is this Lego Batman, so that might have been around the time they did the movie.
Yeah, they've just redone this one. So this was my favorite. Whoop, he just lost the thing. So it goes like this and does this sort of whoop, and he just fell out. So it does this right here. And then these wings sort of adapt. I think this Batman, though, is the Lego Batman because he's got the belt.
He's also got the higher ears.
Yeah, the higher ears. So this isn't the original Batman, but we've got a few of these. We've also got the Dark Knight Rises Batman, the Batmobile, Batwing, the Batwing. So, but I like this one.
Batmobile collection, but I didn't want to grab it all out. So
this is the one I like. So that's my Bat toy. Well, so Kirk, tell them what we're going to do tonight.
We're actually going to change the format somewhat going forward. If we have it, we'll decide how long season 1 is. But what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of like overview shows of different things, like Star Trek, Star Wars, Batman, other things, Lord of the Rings, things like that. And then we're going to go in depth into specific topics in like season 2, so that way we can cover more ground rather than always trying to just hit the top points of everything. But tonight is going to be all about Batman.
That's right.
So why do we like him? Why is he popular? And more importantly, why is he always psychoanalyzed by everybody?
Yes. So why don't we start there? Why do we like him and why is he so popular? What do you think?
I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that it could be kind of the almost anti-hero thing, but it could be the thing that he's other than the fact that he's super rich, he is highly intelligent, but he's just a person. He doesn't have superpowers. So it could be that people, relate to him better, kind of the same, the Tony Stark syndrome, whereas, you can kind of identify with somebody who's not necessarily has superpower like Superman.
Yeah, not a demigod, so to speak. Yeah, I was thinking of that because I saw you wrote that question. What we would talk about. I think that Batman is a very American hero. I think because he's rich. Here's what I think about. I think about what Michael Caine said when they were doing the Batman movies with Nolan. And he said, Americans like to think of themselves as Superman, but the world views you all as Batman. And I thought that was really telling. I think Batman appeals just because he is mortal. I think that's probably where his popularity, I think his mortality versus some of the other heroes who seem to be divine.
And it's also the Boy Scout thing. You know, Superman is of course the Boy Scout, and so many superheroes are, you know, they're goody goody. Where Batman has always been able to walk that line to where it's not as obvious that, you know, while he doesn't kill anybody or all these other things, he seems like he can go dark easier than the rest of them can, with less earth-shattering repercussions.
Yeah, I think.
Superman does that. Let's face it, he cracks the world.
Yeah, I think he also is maybe one of the cooler designs too.
Oh well, yeah.
I wonder if that's part of it. I got a little window glare here on my screen. It looks like the sun is coming into me. It's a ray. It's a ray of light from Batman.
The bat signal.
I think he's just as a really well designed character because of that cowl.
Yeah.
You know, Superman, you got to hit the face. You got to get the fun curl. Get out the chiseled, features. But with Batman, it's just these sort of glaring eyes and sort of a, you know, brooding smirk or, you know, frown.
Well, it's RBF, resting bastard face.
Yeah, he's got that. So he's popular. He's been popular for a long time.
Pretty much since he started.
Yeah.
I mean, he was essentially one of the original comic book heroes. And, I mean, they were doing serials of him, like him and Superman, like right off. And then they had this series there in the 60s with Adam West. And then he kind of goes in waves, but he seems to have kind of sustained the popularity since '89 and the first Tim Burton Batman. It seems like since then he's been like hugely popular all the time, and now we've got 2 and 3 generations of kids that have been raised as Batman is the it guy. So I mean that could be part of it.
I wonder too, and honestly, up until, well, I don't know. I guess maybe Frank Miller, but I think he's always lived in the world of camp, because when I was introduced to him as a little boy in the 70s, he was part of the DC world. He'd show up with Scooby-Doo. And then, of course, the syndication of Adam West and that version. And even Tim Burton still had him campy, because Burton wasn't the Burton we know now, but it was still a campy version of Batman because it had that Burton aesthetic. But it wasn't really, I think, until when Frank Miller takes him really dark as this broken old bat. Right. Or maybe The Killing Joke. Maybe, well, I can't remember which was sooner. The Dark Knight or The Killing Joke.
There was always the comic book version, and then there was the kid version that was there to sell toys.
Right.
So there was the cartoon kid version, which was kind of the campy 60s thing, and then there was the comic book version. And then, when Burton wanted to do it, he was like, you know what, I want to do a more serious. So really it was a lot of the villains were over the top. And, you know, Batman was kind of middle of the road, where, again, some of the earlier stuff was, Batman was showing up with Scooby-Doo, and it was him and Robin running around, whereas that kind of started, the comic book guys kind of took over a little bit, and then it progressively got realer, I suppose, until you get to the Nolan trilogy.
Yeah. Well,
even Lego Batman, if you think about it, the Lego Batman is targeted directly at kids, not so much your hardcore comic book buying audience that likes The Killing Joke and The Long Halloween and some of those stories.
Yeah, or No Man's Land.
Yeah.
Well, I guess some of the popularity too, Kirk, surely has to do with his villains. I can't think of any superhero who has a more iconic rogues gallery that's actually interesting. And it seems like not everyone, there's hit and misses. We might talk about that today. Seems like many people get the villains well, or do the villains well, or even if they don't do all the villains well, they might hit one or two really well.
Right.
The way like Nolan suddenly made the Scarecrow interesting, and Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul, depending on who wants to call him what. But like Gotham, I thought had a very interesting take on Penguin.
And
Riddler. Edward Enigma was actually really interesting. Some of the others probably, I don't think they were as interesting, but Nolan really did well with the Joker. I thought Burton did well with the Joker. I thought Burton had a great Penguin and Catwoman. I think Burton got Catwoman better than anyone. But he just has a really interesting group of
Yeah.
rogues well, proof's in the pudding. Look at Harley Quinn and where she is now. She started with the animated series,
Right.
and she has evolved from being just the Joker's sidekick with the Bruce Timm animated version to now her own woman. And they have the little series of her and Poison Ivy. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen that, and Clayface, and it's very adult, but his gallery just works really well.
So, well, that kind of brings up the whole psychology thing, because I've always found it interesting that you have like Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man as kind of the iconic heroes, and then even the X-Men. But you don't see the amount of psychoanalyzing on any other hero except for Batman. And I think it has a lot to do with the villains, because again, do the villains make the hero, or do the hero make the villains?
Well, isn't
Which
that
really is it? And I think there's so much there, because I think because he doesn't have a superpower, therefore he can fight people who don't have superpowers. So therefore you can kind of mix and match the hero to the villain, and therefore the villain can be whatever the hero needs it to be in that story, and vice versa. I think that's the great thing about Batman villains. They can be however they're written, whatever you need them to be, they can kind of fit that mold, and you can kind of plug in who you need.
And that would be an episode that we should have, because that was some of my pushback on Suicide Squad specifically, and definitely the Joker movie, which I am not a fan of, and I'll just say that publicly. I did not like it at all, and it was because I don't find the Joker interesting apart from Batman, just like I don't find Batman interesting without a really good villain. I don't know how well Batman holds up without a villain, because I agree with you. I don't think he works well in the Justice League the way others do, but I think Batman's still interesting if he's taking on the mob, because the mob is human and Batman is human.
Right.
And frankly, the mob is more scary than a pretend Penguin or Joker or Riddler or Clayface, because we have mobs. Mobs are from our planet. It's not Brainiac, or characters coming from, or Sinestro. So when he takes on the mob, you're like, okay, if he only ever fought the mob, that's still scary, because the mob is scary. So his villains, I think, just work better with him, mostly. Not exclusively, but...
Do you think that Batman has the best villains?
Yes. If we're going comic book world, yes. Yes, I do. I think the X-Men have great villains just because of Magneto's humanity, in contrast with Charles, the way that was always, and Magneto having kids, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. He's a very human villain, Magneto is. But they also have some other great ones too, because they get matched. It's always Wolverine, Sabretooth. They match a sort of hero in the X-Men well with a villain.
Just as an aside, I've always found it interesting that Superman's most lethal opponent is a guy who has no superpowers. He's just really smart.
Yeah. Well, one day we have to do a Superman episode, because I think Red Sun does the best at showing Clark Kent versus Lex Luthor and sort of what they embody. But I think Batman has the best, most interesting, and maybe that's what Warner Brothers and DC hoped, was that the Suicide Batman gallery was so interesting people would love it, or that the Joker would stand alone.
They picked ones that again, if you're gonna do something like that, the problem with Suicide Squad was, okay, you had Harley, but Deadshot not necessarily always not a well-known adversary of Batman, and the rest of them is like, I've always said it. Suicide Squad would be a much better movie if you kept Joker out of it. Yeah. If he wasn't in it at all, it would have been a much better movie.
Yeah. And if you played up Amanda Waller just being really the evil, I mean, she was, but she's a great villain too. That's just it in Batman. That, you don't even, in his world, you don't have to have superpowers.
Yeah.
If you're just insidious or seedy or manipulative, or you've just got power over people, but maybe it's financial or blackmail, you're still interesting to Batman, because if you had a gun, you could kill Batman and you're the bad guy. Whereas if you're Superman, it just ricochets and You know, eventually
Right.
Lois Lane is the only thing ever of threat to him. You
Well,
know,
yeah, I think you're onto something there. It could be that people identify with Batman so much because he kind of proves that the worst monsters in the world are other people, and they don't have to be the big, Galactus, planet-eating, bads. They can be a bunch of gangsters on a street corner.
yeah, which the Arkham series sort of gave young men and women hours to play with, where Batman just takes on, 10 goons,
Yeah,
with a
he
little
took
bit of,
gangsters.
I guess, of the poison in them. But yeah, I agree. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just, and let's be honest, who wouldn't want to be a billionaire? Uh, Although losing your parents and being a billionaire, that's not a good trade-off, but you would be a billionaire.
Right.
So, all right. Now, we probably could keep talking about that forever. Why does Batman work?
It's true.
But it does seem that when he works in certain decades, he is a zeitgeist of the decade. So in the 60s, he's just fun. In the 70s, in that time when you and I were babies, but it was still a negative time. And that Super Friends was a very positive.
Right.
Scooby-Doo in that world was very positive. He comes along at the end of the 80s. Well, that Frank Miller's version in the 80s was his commentary on Reagan. So it had kind of spoken to corporate America. Then in the 90s, the late 80s, Burton introduces the Burtonverse. And then when Nolan comes around now for our generation, it's a very intellectual, scientific Batman, which works. And then I think where we're going with it, people are trying to figure that out. But he seems to really fit his times.
Also because the problem with Batman and especially with Joker is it's hard to show the entire character because Batman is the great detective. So there is that whole thing that that very rarely gets used on screen. He's actually very intelligent and can figure a lot of things out, but it's not used because again, that's not if you're doing an action movie.
You don't need him solving a crime for 10 minutes. You need him punching,
right.
the goons.
You don't need him doing the CSI thing. You need him to, punch Joker in the face. So
well, and Alex Ross, who famously did the Kingdom Come and some of those versions, he leaned into that part of Batman where it's literally Batman versus the mob, and that image of this young African American boy holding a gun to Batman, and Batman seeing in this boy who he had become, and there was no Poison Ivy or Clayface or Mr. Freeze. It was literally just the detective versus.
Oh, yeah, that was what was so good. That's why I love No Man's Land so much because and again, not to get off into the whole comics thing, which we'll do some other time, but that was you took away all the gadgets. You took away all the tech, so it was kind of him versus just the street level criminals, more or less, with a few of the baddies thrown in here and there. But it was how does he deal with basically being by himself now and not having all that tech, but he could still do what he has to do.
Well, that does speak to some of the popular versions of him because I think the Bane character, even though Bane had the, whatever that was, the Venom, it was Bane's just brilliance that figured out Bruce Wayne. Spoiler alert. So yeah, he broke him physically, but he was already of an intellectual equal with Batman,
Right.
which made him a bigger threat to Batman. Because Batman usually can match brawn for brawn, or if you have brains, Batman can beat you in brawn. But it's rare that it's Batman's brawn and brains versus a villain's equal. And Bane was the version of Bane that was introduced. Now, since then, he's sort of become multiple parodies of himself,
Right. Well, again, yeah, it depends on how he's written.
Right.
So since we're talking about the movies and the TV, I want to bring up just a little, could be a segment on the show we're going to start doing, just our personal pet peeves.
Let's do it. Kirk's Pet Peeve Corner. Brought to you by McDonald's.
Right. Why do we have to see his origin story every time Batman shows up? I'm like, serious. At this point, okay, his parents are dead. They got killed in an alley. Everybody knows it. Why do we have to keep going over it? It's like if we see Batman and don't see the origin, well, why is he like that? I mean, come on. Who's going to go see a Batman movie that doesn't know his origin story? Because again, he's one of the there's three comic book characters that I guarantee you, if you walked up to any average person on the street, they will be able to tell you what the origin story is. Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we have to see it every stinking time. We'll reference it at some point. It's like, okay, I get it. But yeah, we don't, it's like every show or whatever, we don't have to, oh, by the way, your parents died in an alley.
I don't know. It just makes him more, you just feel bad for him, I guess. I don't know. I will say, I've had mixed feelings. We've had these debates about the version of the Zack Snyder Justice League that they were trying to do after Man of Steel, which I like Man of Steel, but Batman versus Superman, Justice League, and Suicide Squad. I appreciated that Ben Affleck, they didn't weigh him down too much. They had sort of treated his version of Batman the way Marvel treated T'Challa in the Black Panther, where they just bring him into the narrative.
Well, no, but see, that's what's funny is if you actually go back and you watch the opening credits of Batman versus Superman, guess what they're covering?
Oh, that's right, because the Martha. Well, but in that version, they needed Martha so he wouldn't.
Still, I don't know.
Why'd you say that name?
Yeah, I just.
All right. Hey, I have a pet peeve. Our pet peeve is similar, though. I don't like the thought that Batman's always so far ahead of everyone. I appreciate that Batman's smart, but last night I'm watching Mask of the Phantasm. Speaking of a great Batman story, really great movie. And that scene where he's trying to fight crime, and he's just starting, and he doesn't have the suit, and he kind of screws up once in a while, or he doesn't get it right. And then when he gets cornered in that abandoned building and literally is just surrounded by cops, and he almost doesn't make it out alive. That version to me is interesting because Nolan did that with his, where Bruce is stuck in that building and he clips out that sonar to get the bats, but it's kind of a last minute escape versus, Batman just happened to have kryptonite in his pocket in case Superman was bad, or, the 60s did it well because Adam West would always have taken he had a can of anti-shark repellent, which that tells you everything you need to know about
the story. But and again, it's not necessarily realism, but to try to keep you into the narrative, it gets a little boring when you're like, okay, well, it doesn't matter what's going to happen because, of course, Batman's going to win because it's Batman. So, of course, he's already read the script. He already knows what's going to happen. So what's the point? I mean, some of the cartoon stuff, that's where it really bothers me. It's what I like. It's one thing that I liked about the animated series. It didn't have that problem. It was always, he was going along episode to episode, and he wasn't always, well, I already know what's going to happen. It seems to be like the Justice League stuff, where he's always like, I never sleep, and I'm smarter than you, I'm stronger than you, and it's like it's like he's got all the superpowers of everybody in the Justice League, and they're like kind of along for the ride. Or he suddenly turns into Gandalf, where he's like, I'll be back, hold on, and then he disappears for like 2 or 3 scenes, and then he's back, and everything's fine again because, Batman's here.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's either Batman or he's Gandalf. Pick one. I don't care.
He's Batgolf. He's Gandalf man. I don't know.
Think we get Ian McKellen to do older Batman?
Or Michael Keaton. That's the buzz right now, right? That with this.
What the buzz is, they brought like every Batman back. Yeah. Because they've talked about bringing Keaton back through Flashpoint. They've had Affleck back. So yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, and it was good to see Kevin Conroy. It was good to see Kevin Conroy. Go ahead. I cut you off.
Oh, I said sparkly Batman may be out of luck.
I'm not going to lie. I'm actually looking forward to his version of Batman.
I've seen some of the pictures. I'm a little bit, just seeing the still photos, I'm okay. When it was first announced, I'm like, but then again, everybody was like, Michael Keaton, and Christian Bale. So it seems to happen.
It does.
He's like, Batman is like the American version of James Bond. No matter who they cast, there's always drama.
So let's talk about that. Our favorite are Batmans. So a lot of people have played them. Now we should probably be fair and include some voice actors too on this one. Let's talk.
There's one voice actor that is on my list.
Yeah, and I have two. voice actors. Okay,
Okay.
so
Who's your
who
five?
who are your five? Who are your five Batmans that you could do them in order, just the five you like?
Well, top five is Christian Bale and Michael Keaton. That's 1 and 1A because they, to me, they've always been the best ones. Kevin Conroy from animated series, who voiced Batman, was 3. Adam West is 4, just because it's iconic. And then I kind of agree with you. My 5 is either Kilmer or Affleck, just depending. Once I kind of figured out where Affleck was going, I like that story, and I kind of like the part he was playing in Justice League. But Kilmer did a pretty decent Batman too, so they're kind of tied, I guess.
Yeah. Mine's almost the same. I will, just because he got a third film. I still think the third film was fine, and maybe it wasn't great, but Christian Bale, I'll put him as my 1A, and I'll put Keaton as my 1B, only because they didn't give Keaton the third movie they were supposed to. Now, if they bring Keaton back,
Oh yeah,
and they give Michael Keaton, who's one of the great actors, something to do other than just wish he's in a better movie, and they write for him, they'll probably replace Bale. Kevin Conroy has to be number 2 or 3, whichever way you're ranking him.
right.
He's just been great. It gets hard for me now. I got to give love to Diedrich Bader, who voiced Batman on the very short-lived, but I thought very funny, Batman Brave and the Bold. It was a send-up of the Adam West version, which West is my number 5. But Batman Brave and the Bold modernized the Adam West version. And Diedrich Bader, who, of course, was on the Drew Carey show and teaches Rex Kwon Do and Napoleon Dynamite, he was great. I mostly loved Batman Brave and the Bold because I thought it did the only serviceable version of Aquaman I've ever seen. So John DiMaggio, of course, Bender from Futurama. We got to do something about voice actors. Now that Ren and Stimpy's coming back, we may have to have an episode about voice actors. But John DiMaggio as Aquaman, always spinning yarns about his heroism, made that show funny. So,
well, yeah,
that's my.
All the heroes go out except for Aquaman because he can't do crap.
Yeah, I didn't like Val Kilmer or George Clooney, and I did like Affleck. I think I've told you this: when Affleck is the least of your problems, something went wrong with your film. Okay, top Jokers, Kirk. We probably could have done other versions. Should we do top villains, or do you want to do Joker actors? Because that could be a whole episode, couldn't it? Just the Joker.
I think as just a cover, because if we start going down the rabbit hole of all the villains, then we could be here all night. But for me, the top 5 Jokers, again, I have 1A, which is of course Jack and Heath Ledger, because again, I think they were the closest to. I think if you kind of put them together, they would be the ultimate Joker, because I think they got the closest to having the kind of the crazy, kind of crazy going on, and then the anarchist. Kind of put them together, they are Joker. And then Cesar Romero, because he was great in the 60s series. Come on, he was amazing. Mark Hamill, and then I always kind of go, does it really matter? I mean, once you get Mark Hamill, is there any reason to go any further?
Yeah,
I refuse to acknowledge Suicide Squad Joker because I'm just so upset because I'm like, what were you doing?
My number 1 is Heath Ledger.
Failed at every one of them.
Poor Jared Leto. He's so great in so many things, but he's a really good actor, but I don't know what was going on there. So.
I have problems with it.
Yeah, he really is. He's great in so many things, but the
problem is, again, he kind of is like Affleck to me. Like Affleck to me before, a lot of times it's like, come in, give me 5 good minutes, then get killed. To me, the best Jared Leto movie that I've seen him in was Fight Club, when he's getting the crap kicked out of him by, on the floor. So yeah, I'm weird.
Well, I'm partial to him because of Requiem for a Dream.
Fair enough.
You know, that Dallas Buyers Club. But so he's not in my list either as Joker. So he does, just because I like that doesn't mean he gets in there. My number one will be Heath, and my number two is actually Mark Hamill, because I think Mark Hamill, even though he was the voice actor, he just, you know what it was? It was when they finally did the Killing Joke animated, and to have Mark Hamill tell the joke, the final joke that makes Batman laugh, where he's
Right.
like, you know, go ahead and kick the crap out of me and get your applause again, Batman. You know, what are you waiting for? And Batman's like, no. And Joker's like, no, it's too late for me too. You know, but Hamill just is so great. And then Jack is 3, but Jack is still amazing. I do love Cesar Romero. I liked, can never remember his name, the Riddler, the guy who played the Riddler.
Oh, Frank Gorshin.
I liked Frank Gorshin better than Cesar Romero, and I kind of wished Frank Gorshin had been the Joker because he kind of sounded more like him. But it was Cesar Romero. I respect that Cesar Romero just went ahead and, you know, covered the old mustache. I'm like you. My number 5 is, well, not you. So,
Like,
you know, like whoever you are that played him, you ain't on that
well,
list.
it's like number 5 is like to be cast. Like they haven't cast it yet. You know, kind of like when I rank Star Trek series, I go all the way down and like Star Trek shows that haven't been made yet, and then Voyager. So you know, it's that kind of thing.
You know what I would say though? That kid on Gotham. Now, you know, it was never clear who he was supposed to be.
Right.
But boy,
It was a great curveball for him and the Twin.
Yeah. Okay,
Again,
so
it was another one of those that they played it, again, if you kind of looked at it, they played it like Jack and Ledger. You know, first you had Ledger, who was the anarchist, kind of crazy, and then you kind of had Jack, who was a little bit more calculating. But still, both of them together would have made a great Joker.
who would you want? This isn't on our talking list, but who would you want?
I don't know. I mean, again, Joker is defined by Batman. So you have to find, you know, it's like, okay, what are the qualities of the Batman that you're doing versus what the Joker? Because, I mean, it works so well with Heath Ledger because Bale was, you know, so dark and so serious and so, you know, focused. And then you had Joker, who was, because he was the anarchist, it works so well. I think the reason why those are iconic, if you think about it, is because, again, Mark Hamill played very well off Kevin Conroy. Jack played awesome off of Keaton, and then Ledger played amazing off of Bale. Because again, when you set up the opposing forces, that's the only time it works. So again, like you said, you didn't like the Joker movie. Why? Because there was no Batman. So again, it doesn't matter who you cast. So it's not a Batman. It doesn't matter.
Right. I got a name for you to think about, knowing that it's Robert Pattinson. Okay, so knowing his sort of Twilight broody, and then that Lighthouse movie he made with William. Okay, here's one for you.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Did you say Daniel Radcliffe?
Yes.
Well, that'd be a Harry Potter reunion. Daniel Radcliffe could do it, but this is somebody who I think is naturally funny.
Okay.
And who has a persona that he has outside of his career that is so high theatrical parody and satire, but has a sort of psychology to it that's incredibly dangerous.
The Rock.
Donald Glover.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Right, because this childish Gambino character that he does that always has social commentary for the Black perspective. His humor and pathos in that character could be a very Joker foible-like to Pattinson, who's a very straight, kind of not funny guy. And Glover has done comedy, and you saw him as Lando be very smooth, you know, in the Solo movie. So he could play the very austere, you know, and you look at the stuff he's done in Atlanta.
But would he turn his hair green?
Would he turn his hair green? Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, you could do a lot of things with his hair as a man of color too. You know, he could play with the color scheme.
Yeah, that would be
interesting ways as a Black actor.
Yeah.
So that's who I would like. You know, you're matching age for age, and you're doing a yin and yang.
Yeah.
Like you said. Okay, well, Jokers. Really quickly though, who are your three Batman villains you really like? I know it's not on our list.
Probably Joker. I don't know. Probably Joker. Riddler can be really interesting if he's done well. There was one cartoon that they did that it was done really well. He actually ended up. I think he got out of a Lazarus pit and got way smarter. So it was less crazy, more smart. And then probably Ross, because again, he's kind of Batman's equal in a lot of ways. So it's kind of one of those he can kind of do things to Batman or with Batman that other people can't do.
Yeah, he's one of mine. Joker's my number one. I do like, well, I always see Roz and Talia as you got to
Well,
kind of have them together because of Talia's sort of, and the fact that Damian Wayne then comes along. So I see those as a 1-2. Uh, my third is a really hard one to be honest. I because part of me wants to just go with the crazy, like Killer Croc, Clayface world where Man Bat, where they're just so. I would say my third though, to be honest, is the Mob. Just the Mob, just maybe the Falcone
Falcone's okay.
Syndicate. But I would love to see a live action where Killer Croc is the main bad guy.
That would be interesting.
You know, just
Well,
Batman and the Sewer.
Again, I think my Riddler goes back to the guy that played Enigma in Gotham because he did it so well, and it was so believable, and it was just the way he played Joe. He played Riddler serious, and playing Riddler serious, you're like, whoa, way better. Also, well, we forgot about Two-Face.
Oh.
You see, Two-Face is also pretty good because again, there's that whole villain versus great villain because of the story because he was dead. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was tough.
Yeah. Man, so many good ones to pit him up against. I was surprised you didn't say your number three was Superman, just to get under my skin. All right.
No, if we're going to do that, then it would have to be Green Lantern, because Green Lantern doesn't put up with the crap.
That's true. Green Lantern is the only one who really doesn't make much of
Again, not on the script, but my favorite Green Lantern Batman thing happened when they brought Hal Jordan back from the dead, and he shows up, and everybody's like, "Oh wow, you're back. This is great." And Batman's like, "Don't trust him," and he's like, "No, seriously, I'm back. No, don't trust him." Finally, he's just like, Batman's just like chirping in his ear. Jordan just turns around, cold cocks it, and everybody's like, "Oh, he touched Batman." He's like, "He's just Batman, dude. Come on, let's go." It was just awesome.
All right. Do you want to talk Bat Family, or do you want to go to movies or TV shows?
Let's go Bat Family.
Okay. All right. So Batman, I was watching The Mask of the Phantasm, made me realize that Batman is fundamentally a story about family, even though I agree with you, the obnoxiousness of the sort of, mom and dad always have to die, and then you see Bruce Wayne deal with it. But let's talk the Bat Family. So I'm thinking the Robins, the series of Robins. I'm thinking the series of Batgirls. You have to think of the Alfreds. And then I would think other Bat families would be maybe secondary Batmen that have stood in, like I'm thinking Terry McGinnis and Batman Beyond or Azrael. And even I think of Commissioner Gordon because he's part of the Bat family in some ways.
Well, yeah.
What? Okay. This would be the weeds about Robin. Why does he exist and what's going on there?
Because there needs to be
make of that. What do you make of Robin? And I get why they did it commercially, but
he needs to have somebody who's in danger. Robin is actually misnamed. He should actually be Canary, because he's really the canary in the coal mine. He's kind of the guy that goes in and gets pounded, and then Batman's like, okay, there's a trap in there. But again, I think it was there to lighten him up. That was actually one thing that my brother has pointed out before, is that anytime that Batman doesn't have a Robin, it goes much, much darker. Because again, Robin is kind of is kind of like a center for him. So he can't go too far because, well, the kid will see it, and I don't want to, mess up the kid. But again, I think that, and I like the fact that, Grayson eventually went off and became Nightwing, so then he started getting different kids. Now, of course, didn't work out so well for Jason Todd, but then again, what are you going to do?
Yeah, poor Jason. I do like the Robin characters. I love Burt Ward. I mean, what a fun job that guy had to dress like that and be around Adam West. I do love Dick Grayson. I think Robin really works well with the Teen Titans. I don't know what it is about the Teen Titans, but they're like the cotton candy Justice League.
Right.
And if you just want to be a little kid, Robin is your man with the Justice League. And I do like the Robins. Although Damian was a nice curveball too, because he really is the Robin, because, Bruce being his biological father, you're like, oh yeah, Damian would be Robin,
Well, it kind of goes back to that whole thing of, I know there's a lot of people that want the 5 from Umbrella Academy to be the Teen Titans Robin.
Oh, that kid is great. I got to watch season 2, so no spoilers. That kid is fantastic. And that Umbrella Academy was really entertaining. Are you up on season 2 yet?
Yes, I am actually working on season 2. It took me a while to get started, and then it was funny because they were season 2. My brother was watching it last weekend, and I'm like, all right, I'll go watch it, figure out what's going on. Watched the first season, now I'm in the second season. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, we were Man in the High Castle. That's the series we're trying to wrap up, because we never got into it. I love it. That could be another thing. Dystopian Nazi futures where you're like, wait, 2020 or alternate reality.
Right. Is it?
Then we'll get into after Man in the High Castle, Umbrella Academy. Yeah, that kid would be great as Robin. I thought Robin has worked best in the comics as a Teen Titan in the 60s. I know Schumacher tried. Chris O'Donnell sometimes gets a lot of grief, but he's a great actor. I
think he was, again, it was too old. They needed to have an actual kid rather than a guy that was basically an adult. Because again, then it's like it's not an argument between a kid and a dad. It's the argument between two adults that are like, we're wearing spandex with nipples. I mean, what are you going to do?
So in that case, if I hear what you just said, Anakin Skywalker should have been Chris O'Donnell, where he's already older, and then take Jake Lloyd or whatever and put him as Robin. So Star Wars got the wrong age young, and Batman got the wrong age too old.
Yes, I
know you didn't say that, but I think that's what you meant.
I would be willing to go there with you. I would be willing. I will sign off on
that. I love Batgirl. I think the Batgirl characters are always interesting. I really love that Barbara Gordon's role. I like Gordon and Barbara Gordon. I think Barbara Gordon is super interesting. I haven't gotten into a lot of the other Batgirls, the different versions they've done. I know there was the version, I think, am I mistaken, where she was blind? I can't keep track of all the Batgirls.
Yes, I think there was at one point, she was blind.
Kane, her name was Kane, or I should know this. But there's been a lot of versions of Batgirls. Yes. I like the idea. Why can't a girl kick butt? Catwoman did, so might as well be Batgirl.
Again, I think the problem that you have there is it's always every character is in the shadow of Batman, and he casts a very, very long shadow. So
that's always been a problem with Supergirl. That Supergirl, it's hard for Supergirl to stand alone without Superman.
It's great that we want to do this, but again, give them their own character that's not attached to another hero, because again, that's how you get Scarlet Witch or how you get Storm. They're not attached to anyone. So, or even Wonder Woman, it would have been like, okay, what if there was Wonder Boy?
Yeah.
Is it Wonder Woman? So we have to have Wonder Boy. It doesn't work. And they have Superboy, which doesn't work either. But that's the whole thing. Is I think you're trying to have too much cake and eating it too, I suppose.
Well, let's talk about the Alfreds. It seems like every version gets him right, or is there a version you didn't really like?
I
like all the versions.
I mean, you know, the Jeremy Irons Alfred is great because he is a complete smartass. And it's like, the more you watch it, you realize that basically all he's doing is he's just smacking Affleck on the back of the head verbally, like every time they're in the room, you know, like every time they talk. Because he's like, you know what, you're a dumbass. Stupid. I agree with it. I'm going to do it anyway because that's my job and you pay me probably pretty well, but you're being stupid.
I did like him a lot. And I loved Michael Caine. Do you have a Michael Caine? I don't have a Michael Caine voice. Do you?
No, because his
Batman. It's very hard to do.
The whole, the whole. Sometimes you just like to watch the world burn. I mean, that was iconic.
I'm not going to put another wine in the ground. I can't do it. I love the '60s. My favorite was, I can't remember that actor's name, but when he dressed as Batman.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, that guy is obviously not Batman. If I'm not mistaken, Andy Serkis has been cast as the Alfred Pennyworth in.
That will be interesting.
Yeah, I love him.
He's amazing.
He's a great. If he cracks out a Gollum voice, he'd have been a good Joker. Just kind of older.
Actually, he would be a really good Riddler.
Or Penguin.
Or Penguin, yes.
Yeah. Well, look, he's just a good actor. Okay, but he's going to be Alfred. So the guy from again,
the Burton Alfred was. Yeah. He was good too.
I love the voice actor who did the '90s Bruce Batman animated series. That Alfred. Yeah. I do like the idea that Alfred has a backstory that he saw combat, that he's not entirely unfamiliar with what Bruce is about to do. To me, that does make logical sense.
Yeah,
knowing what he has to do for Bruce.
Yeah, it's the only way the backstory works is because you can't say, okay, the kid turns 18 and then disappears for 10 years and learns, everything. And then, Alfred's just, how did this happen?
Yeah. Would you like for me to teach you Kung Fu, Master Wayne? Yeah, if there was something to him. I thought the guy in the Gotham series was a great Alfred.
Oh, he is awesome.
I thought
he's a great actor, but he's awesome.
Yeah, he sometimes stole that show. He and the kid from the OC who played Gordon.
Yes.
The ridiculously handsome guy who was actually really good as Gordon, I thought.
He was actually, I first actually saw him in the police drama Southland.
Yes. Short-lived Southland.
And then he went to Gotham. So I was like, he's actually really good.
Yeah. So there's some Gordon talk. I love a lot of the Gordons too. I didn't like the Gordon in the 90s in the Burton verse because he just didn't seem he didn't have the piss and vinegar that some versions of Gordon have where he'll punch somebody back.
Oh yeah.
I
gotta look who it is. I've forgotten. But yeah, no.
And how do you screw up with Gary Oldman?
Well, yeah,
he's always cast as a bad guy, but then they let him be Gordon.
Yeah.
That man is a national treasure, even though he's not ours.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he is by far, a great actor, and he's pretty much good in everything he's in. But yeah, just him being Gordon, I thought was great because it again played so well off of that style of Batman. Because again, I think Gordon also. It's interesting how more so than a lot of characters, the Batman, whoever's in the suit affects everybody around him as far as casting wise, and sometimes it works or it doesn't.
I would say maybe even more so than others because with Superman, really what you got to nail is Ma and Pa Kent, Clark Kent, Superman, which Christopher Reeves hit those two with perfection, frankly. Lois Lane, which those versions, the Donner versions, hit Lois Lane really well, and Amy Adams is great. And then really that's, I guess, Lex Luthor. But in Batman, there's not a lot of room to not figure out that all these people have to work. You really cast an ensemble. Maybe that's another reason Batman works so well. I thought the addition of Lucius Fox in his world, well, we didn't even talk about that. Lucius Fox was great, where you just wonder, how did Batman get the stuff he got? So using Morgan Freeman never hurt your movie.
True.
Okay, now you're not as familiar with Batman Beyond as I am. I really love Batman Beyond, but I know you're far more knowledgeable in the comics, so you know more about Azrael than I do. I really like Batman Beyond. Those are kind of alternate, picking up the mantles for Bruce.
Yes. Well, Azrael was interesting because after Bane broke Bruce Wayne's back, he picked Azrael to become Batman. And then he became kind of the Azbat, which is kind of like half Azrael, half Batman. So, and it was much more violent. And that was actually what brought Batman back was Azrael was starting to go too far. And so Wayne had to come back and kind of take it back from him because he was starting to change kind of the way Batman was being perceived.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was actually a really good one because there was the series. It was Nightfall, and there's a couple different series of with him with Azbat. Yeah.
I really like, I got more into Batman Beyond than you did. I really liked the Terry McGinnis story. I love that Bruce Wayne was older. He has a dog named Ace. And if you know anything about that series and you know about Batman and then that character Ace from Justice League, that little girl who was telepathic, and the fact that Batman named his dog Ace and that girl was Ace. There was a lot of pathos between Bruce Wayne and Terry McGinnis. It kind of jumped the shark on the DNA thing, where it said that basically Terry McGinnis was Bruce Wayne instead of just another kid who had lost a parent. But I really did like Terry McGinnis. It was a little Spider-Man version of Batman where Batman's a teen. But I thought Batman Beyond was great. The movie is great. The dark turn it takes, especially with in this version, I think that was Tim Drake who was the Robin. It wasn't.
Might have been. Yeah, it's not.
It wasn't Dick Grayson.
Yeah,
it wasn't Dick Grayson. I think it was Tim Drake, who the Joker sort of turns into himself, basically. Okay, we got a couple more minutes, just 5 more minutes. So you have a question, and then you have 2 questions we can finish with.
Right. Nipples on the bat suits, yes or no?
I'm going to go with a hard pass, no pun intended. No, it
just so bad.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to do that. No, why? No.
Yeah, it would be like watching NFL players, and they would have their pads and do this.
Spraying his chest black. He's not actually wearing armor.
I think a Batmobile just passed me. I don't know if you heard that, but some guy's muffler just sparked.
Right.
No bat nipples.
Yeah. That was a sin. That was a bat sin. So again, we kind of touched on it earlier, but for the cartoons, especially the Justice League cartoons, is Batman too overpowered in those to be? I find him to be a boring character because, again, it's like, if everybody else is doing it and you just show up because you've already got the answer, so you need to go through all the rest of it. It's like, okay, it seems like it's a bit too much fan service rather than trying to tell a good story.
Yeah, I did. I was okay with Justice League. I liked when he and Diana became kind of are they an item? I've always liked Batman with Superman because I just like them both. So to me, liking Batman and Superman is like enjoying ice cream and putting fudge on it. I mean, those are 2 great things anyway. So why wouldn't you do that? I don't. Yeah, I like what Marvel's done with their assembling of a universe. I'm not always a fan of when Batman joins one. I think his Bat family, frankly, is more interesting. Here's the thing. Maybe this is a whole nother discussion. I think Batman works best in Gotham.
Okay.
There's other characters like Captain America, who is America, so he traverses the globe. And Spider-Man, frankly, works better in New York, even though they did a fine job with Spider-Man Away from Home with Mysterio. but Spider-Man's New York. I was explaining this to my son the other day, Daredevil, how much I love Daredevil, but Daredevil's Hell's Kitchen,
Yep.
you know, and if you know about Hell's Kitchen at the time it was written, Daredevil makes more sense then. I thought the show did a good job using the incident to demolish Hell's Kitchen, and Kingpin rebuilds it. But there's just certain people where in their context, I feel like they fit. And Gotham and Batman, Gotham is Batman and Batman is Gotham. So I don't, why does he need anyone else?
He really is hell of that city. Batman or Superman City.
Yeah. Oh, Fortress of Metropolis?
Yes, Metropolis.
Yeah, I was like Fortress of something.
I know, I'm just English failing me. I'm sorry.
Superman could leave. Well, but right, Superman is Kansas and Metropolis and Krypton. So Superman was already written in this triangle between he's from Krypton, he lives in Metropolis, he's from Kansas. Batman, he's traumatized in Gotham. He leaves Gotham to, go to the mountains.
Are you saying his parents got? Oh, see, I never knew that.
Right. So
that changes everything.
Yeah, Batman, he's traumatized in Gotham. His father is Gotham. He's raised in Gotham. He comes back to Gotham, and he's always fighting for Gotham. Superman can go to Kansas. He can go to the Fortress of Solitude. Well, that's a fourth one. He's always looking for Krypton. He's in Metropolis. He goes to the Fortress of Solitude. He's in Kansas. Superman is global, and Batman just works as sort of the Dark Knight of that city. So, and that's why the Bat family works so well. So, okay, we're out of time, but one thing we didn't talk about, and shame on us, which means we'll have to do an episode, Kirk. We didn't even talk about the utility belt and the Batmobiles, like the Bat gadgets.
See, if we're gonna do Batmobiles, I have to go get the whole collection of Batmobiles. So I needed time to do that. So
yeah, we have to have that discussion because Batman and the Batmobile is. Look, you just say that in your lexicon. I say to the kids all the time, quick to the Batmobile. Like, you just say it. It's kind of like going up in the grocery store and using the force to open the sliding doors. You get in the car and you call it the Batmobile. Or when you're a kid, when the garage door is closing, you do Indiana Jones and try to tumble out.
Yep.
Like Indiana Jones did. You can't say Batman and not have a Batmobile. So we love Batman. I like Superman a little better, but the older I get, the more I like Batman. I don't know why that is. Do you?
Screw the Boy Scout.
Do you have any idea why that is?
Beats me. Could be because we've gotten to that age where we realize that no amount of exercise can turn us into Batman.
Yeah. So
we would need a crystal from some other planet to become super.
I know. Yeah. Or maybe it's just because I'm like, wow, if I was a billionaire, I wouldn't fight crime, but I would intend to. I don't know.
I'd hire somebody else to fight crime.
All right. Well, we didn't get to go live again to our fans at Fandumbs. We keep trying to solve this Rubik's Cube called How Do You Do Technology? So this was done on Sunday evening here on August 9th, episode 3. Our next episode, if you have comments below, we still have a lot of Star Wars to talk. We still have to keep talking Batman. We've got to get into the Lord of the Rings at some time. October is going to be coming around the corner, which means we may have to get into movie monsters and great just horror film monsters for October.
Shouldn't try to do all the movie monsters together, and why Penny Dreadful did it better than they ever could.
That's true. Up until the end. And Penny Dreadful got weirder.
Right.
Yeah. To call that weird, yeah. So we got some other episodes to do. Maybe if you comment below, as our fans, all two of you, which is your wife, Kirk, your fiance, and I don't think my kids or wife watch this, which is fine.
I don't even know if she cares. I think she kind of does, but I think, so we need to see if we have people that like us, that want us to keep doing this, let us know. And if you want us to hear, talk about anything, we've had the request for a Whedon verse.
We did, my friend Miranda, but see, that's just called being mad about Firefly and also appreciating what Joss Whedon did maybe with Buffy and with the Avengers.
If we're gonna do something about Firefly, then we need to talk about all the sci-fi shows that Fox killed that could have been great, but only got one season because Fox sucks as a network.
Yeah, or we could have an episode where it's Whedon-centric, but we say, what are the other sci-fis that we enjoy? Things like Firefly or Battlestar Galactica or
Well,
maybe Lost in Space. Netflix has Lost in Space. We could talk Voltron. Lots of...
Well, for the one seasons, everybody always goes with Firefly, and I was like, I didn't watch Firefly till like a year ago. My thing was always Space Above and Beyond. Got one season, got canceled. I thought it was a great show. So
yeah.
There you go.
All right.
What do you expect?
Well, is there any fun thing we could say where Batman sends off? I mean, Spock does this. The Force is with you. Lord of the Rings.
No, he just disappears.
Oh, that's right. So we just fade our videos out like that. Oh, wait, it's my picture. I'm supposed to disappear.
Yes. Did not go well. See, no, you do. It's like this. You got to do it like that.
I can't.
That's how you do it.
I can't disappear, Kirk. All right, until next time.
We're getting a little cap on it, so.
Okay.
Gotta say.
Till next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Kirk.
And you've been watching Fandumbs, all three of you. Thank you.
We love you, whoever you might be.